Hey there, everybody. Eric from Outer Limitless. I'm here with...
What's up? I'm Jake. Jacob B. Peterson now. It's not the Preppers Bunker Outdoors anymore.
How do you not intro that way?
Yeah.
Is it throwing you off or what?
It does throw me off a little bit. It's still a little bit weird to not say the Preppers Bunker Outdoors.
But we're here today, a little bit of an adventure. We're going to be talking about Diamondback Country Knives. Now, Jacob, you kind of introduced me to these guys, and I know you go back quite a ways. Give me a little bit of background on these guys and what they do.
So Diamondback Country Knives, this is owned by and made by Bobby Garza. I met him at Blade Show, and basically I was just immediately floored not only by his designs and attention to detail, but fit and finish as well. I mean, I could just tell that the guy not only was a perfectionist and an artist, like many of the people at Blade Show are, but I could tell by some of the design aspects that like they're meant to be used.
Right.
And I was immediately impressed by that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was, and having actually really been introduced to him because of your videos, and I know that you have a blade on your hip right now, which is the one that I saw for the first time, and then to bump into him at Blade Show, I was like, oh, wow, like the two sort of worlds collided for me, and since then I've been actually working through a little bit of a project. I have his moccasin design here, and then you have one which is what?
This is the Razer Back X.
Nice.
And I beat the snot out of this knife. It's just absolutely beautiful.
So we're going to get to some blade work today. We're in the sort of back hills and woods of Kentucky, nice and deep and lush. Absolutely going to be something that puts these knives to the test.
Absolutely.
And so with that, I guess we're going to get out there and get at it.
Go have some fun.
Nice. So as we get into this, I did want to say, the minute I met Bobby Garza, I was really impressed, not only at his work, but his ideas, his his direction, his attention to detail, and for as incredible as his work already was, he was already talking about the changes he wanted to make, the refinements he wanted to make, and some of the subtleties that he could see in his work. And as you follow him, you will see that he has some very active Facebook groups. So check out Diamondback Country Facebook groups. He has both sort of an open forum and then more of a invite type of group. And he has been covering his work in the past couple of months as he's making his orders for his current customers. And I got to tell you, this stuff is super sharp. So before we get too far into this, check out the Diamondback Country Facebook groups, and I think you'll like what you see.
The spider stick, having all the leaves and stuff actually helps a lot catch the spiders. I learned the hard way. So you want something big and bushy. Keep them off your face. And it's not that like the spiders will bite you. It's just when you get to your destination and you're covered in spider webs, it automatically is annoying.
Little shameless plug for your Grail water bottle.
Love it.
Filtering on the go.
It's a game changer. No more Giardia for me.
Your dog has no problems, huh?
He
loves it.
Yeah, this is his he's in his element in here.
Yeah, very cool.
So we're up here by the waterfall. It's one of my favorite places. It's a very challenging place to get a fire going, believe it or not. Not only is everything wet down here, but the air itself is incredibly humid. So we're gonna gather some stuff up and we're gonna put the old Diamondbacks to the test, make some feather sticks, do some things, get a little fire going, and then we'll talk to you about the blades.
And so from my perspective, I live in a completely different environment, and I can tell you that with the humidity, the moisture of the wood, this is about as challenging of a place to actually start a fire as you can come across. The winter, the snow is less wet than this. And I would even go as far as to say being in the snow would be dry compared to where we are here. So, I mean, you could almost see the humidity in the air. It is that wet. So, as he mentioned, we're gonna put the Diamondback knives to the test. I know the knives will perform, but how are our fire making skills in this environment? Well, I guess we're gonna have to see. We'll hope for the best, but I think we'll succeed. Nice little baton.
That'll do.
Nice.
Just want to have a nice flat little area to do my feather sticks, to do my batoning, whatever else, especially since we're on a complete rock slab here. Nice little flat spot can make our lives a lot easier, especially if I can whip it up quick.
So what model is that again?
This is the Razer Back X.
Razer Back X.
Yeah, so he's got a normal Razer Back. His X models will be larger versions of his smaller models.
Gotcha. Now, something to point out, these knives are both what I would call a full flat grind. Would you, I mean, it's an extremely high saber. I would call it more of a full flat.
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, that's what it is.
Very refined edge, nice and slicey, easy to find the edge, excellent edge geometry. This handle has pretty much what I would call an indexing choil right here in that foregrip, and then you end up with your 3 fingers just kind of locking back. You can see I'm pretty much using the full hammer grip, or you can put your thumb over the top for a little bit more control. For this particular type of carving where it doesn't need too much in the way of finesse, I feel like more of a full hammer grip will do, but definitely making nice quick work of this. Just thinning out the handle a little bit, getting rid of the rough bark so that over the course of work, you don't beat up too much on your hands, don't create any real hot spots, and just sort of smoothing this out. It's doing a nice job. This one here, the moccasin. I love the way this looks. I love how everything is rounded out. And one of the things I was saying about Bobby Garza, who is currently sort of refining his methodologies, even some of the little spots here, he's working on rounding out even more. So this is good, very good. But his new models, you can see, are just even a little more refined. So those are some of the things that he's been working on. So a lot of really great subtle changes, but things that will add additional ergonomics when you're using the knife, and especially in hard use. Not easy to get those to stay on the stick.
No, not especially not on this stick.
Right.
I like to find a dead small tree and actually saw off sections of the trunk and then split it down and use that for my tinder, because usually it's the most dry, but also it has straighter grain, and so I'll be able to get really, really fine curls. But something like this, just a normal hemlock branch, the grain is not only twisted, but we've got knots everywhere in it, so you really have to constantly pay attention to the angle of your edge, because the angle of the stick's going to be constantly changing. And so it's got to be sharp. It really helps to have fine edge geometry, and you got to know what you're doing for sure when you're trying to do a feather stick this way.
So one thing to consider about these knives, again, going back to the fact that they're kind of, I guess, what I would call a full flat grind. When it comes to batoning, you will have a little more surface area to get, you know, friction and caught up in the wood, versus a saber grind, which for me, the saber grind is a much more preferred grind for batoning. However, you use the tools that you have and you make them work. So even though this knife's a little bit smaller, even though it is a full flat grind, I need to baton down and get to the inside of some of this wood. It's been laying on the ground. The outside is definitely wet, but I'm hoping on the inside there will be some suitable material for feathers, or even for kindling, or for my fuel. So we got to get to the inside of this some way or another, and this is the tool that I have to do it. Of course, you can see things can land in the puddles. Not ideal, but we're working where we're working, and it is what it is. Almost need like a piece of dry bark we could like lay out to catch. Yeah, we need a place to catch the small stuff. Jacob, what steel is on that knife? Do you know?
This one is 3V.
That's 3V?
Yep.
Yeah. This one also 3V. How have you felt about 3V in the moisture like this? Have you ever had any problems?
So, you know, I'm a little different than most folks, especially when it comes to expensive knives. You know, you'll see my knife's a little bit stained, and I like it that way. I like it to have a little bit of patina. I would actually like to have more patina than I have. So what I'll say is, like, I don't have issues with staining. I've never had issues with rust, and I would be happy to have a little more than I do have, but in my opinion, 3V is as close to stainless as I generally need.
Yep. Yep. And same with me. I've never had any issues with 3V. Certainly in none of the environments that I've worked in. You know, I find that it performs very well. It's been fairly forgiving. I haven't had any edge issues. In fact, right here, even though I'm carving down onto a rock, I'm, you know, subtly nicking the edge from time to time by accident. I don't mean to. I'm trying to avoid it, but it's, you know, can't always avoid it. I need a place to catch these little curls. But I like 3V. I think it's a good steel. It's worked well for me. Yeah, it's certainly working very well here today. I'm curious to see how my knife patinas, and I agree with you. I always say there's nothing I like more than a good hard use patina on my blades. So if it's gonna, you know, turn colors or give me some meatina because I use it on my food, that'll just add to the character and my enjoyment of the knife. So yeah.
you know, everybody wants something more toughness with more edge retention, with more everything else. I think if 3V was the only steel in existence, the market would probably be a better place. If I had to pick one steel that had to be the steel to do literally everything from kitchen knives to fillet knives, anything everywhere, it might be 3V. It might be a couple other steels as well. There are other steels that I think would also fit the bill pretty well, but 3V is so well-rounded that even if it loses its star power that it once had for being the newest, coolest thing, it's always going to be an excellent option.
Want to try out this moccasin?
Yeah, let's do that. That's nice.
I can tell you've used your knife quite a bit, just with your comfort.
Right.
And your ability to run that edge perfectly, even on a larger blade. Which I do like a slightly larger blade for this type of adventure, personally.
Yeah, me too. The control on this is wonderful, though. I mean, it just melts into the hand. Like, the time that it takes to start getting used to it is very low.
You had like 4 passes, and now you're in. Do you feel like the edge geometry is about the same?
No, we're thinner.
Thinner, but I guess I should say roughly the angle and the way you attack the wood?
Yeah, very similar. But it's easier to get finer curls. Little bit different. But the Razer Back X needs to have a little bit different geo because it'll see so much more force from me beating on it being larger.
So we're spending a lot of time on the prep here. I feel like you only get one real chance to light this fire, because if we burn through all our tinder and kindling, it's a lot of work and effort gone to none. So a little extra prep on these feather sticks will go a long way, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Another feature on this particular knife, the fact that it has a squared 90-degree spine and then these awesome scallops, so you can turn the handle sideways, get right on, and scrape some fuzz. We got Jacob doing the same thing, and let's see what we can do. I'm going to try to capture as much as I can and hopefully keep this fairly dry. This is going to be the critical start of the fire, so I'm just trying to make a little nub here and gather this without it getting at all wet. But you can see that spine is very effective. Dry-ish. Careful, little careful. Come on, baby. You got this? Give me the phone. You do the fire. Moment of truth here. If we can get this caught, this is our one chance without losing all this awesome tinder and kindling. I definitely am starting to feel a little bit of heat, but it doesn't mean we got this. The flames are still weak. We're running out of the fine stuff. You gotta maybe grab some little branches here. Use this to your advantage. Scoop that right in. There you go.
We got just enough heat.
Just enough. Grab some of that fine twiggy stuff.
We've got a good base built up, so it's gonna go kind of smoothly, I think.
As long as the smoke doesn't smother it, I think we got this.
That's why I like doing the log cabins, because we can get air in through the sides, so it's harder to smother from the top, which is what I want when I'm getting this kind of struggle. I want to make a shirt. All of my friends have told me it's stupid so far. I've been thinking about for years, so I've been thinking about making a shirt that says "Stay Dryish" with my channel logo.
That's what we just did. We tried to stay dryish. I hope that wasn't proprietary information.
No, not at all.
What do you think? Do you want a shirt that says "Stay dryish"? Leave a comment below.
Very, if you've been out here making a fire like this, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
I guess if you haven't, then maybe you might be like, what the hell are you talking about? But,
we're barely dry-ish.
yeah.
Barely. We're dry-ish enough.
I always like to go
As
from...
simple as this is, these little tiny things, these tiny little things, sometimes are the difference between it catching and not. So don't ignore these tiny little scraps and use them all. They're right in front of you.
So I should be able to start building this teepee up with some rapidly larger stuff, and it should be able to keep going. I'd say we've got a good foundation for our fire now. And
It's strong now. This is going to be hard to put out.
Yeah, for what we did and where we're at, and getting it the first time, especially you did the transfer. I don't ever do that, so that was outside of my wheelhouse there, and we made it work.
I like that because you're not wailing into your pile, and it keeps that bird's nest that you've created nice and tight and organized. You built it a certain way for a reason. So I like the birch bark. Usually I'll get a nice wide piece of birch bark where I'm from. And I'll use that for two things. I'll scrape the fuzz off of that because it has the great oils in it to actually spark the fire. But then that becomes a nice easy place where you can transfer and get it down into the pile and you're not wrecking your bird's nest. So
I teach classes down in Camden, and they have a lot of that birch bark, and I tell students about it, and we'll use it on the side, but in the class we don't use it at all, because I tell students, like, you're not always going to have this, you might not have this at home. We're going to make our fire with whatever you find besides this.
that's hot now.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Good job.
I can show you another method if you like really quick that is my personal favorite. So I like using a large knife with my ferro rods, and my favorite method is I'm going to put my knife onto my boot like this and draw a cross into my bird's nest, because generally speaking I can throw sparks that are just wild.
Well,
There's that. This is why I love my Exotac. I'm going to reach out, I'll reach out, or just actually really go on Amazon, buy a new rod, and rock and roll. This method, the one downside, the method I just was showing you, is I can use a lot more force. I can get a lot hotter sparks, but I do take a lot of that ferro rod with me with each strike.
all right, so at this point, success. Nice job. Obviously, we were able to get that going. I felt like it was a good combination. You needed the right tools for the job, but you also needed the skills.
For sure, for sure. That's how it usually goes. And you know what? If you have the skills, you can make do with less, but it means more work. And sometimes there's the pride and the pleasure in and of itself of using such a nice tool.
Yeah, and these were great, I have to say. I mean, just in the little amount of use that I put the moccasin through, it absolutely performed. Great edge geometry, nice and slicey. It did a little bit of batoning. Awesome for the scraping tasks. I'm not going to be limbing, but that's why they make larger models.
And for this, the Razer Back X, this thing's like 16 ounces. So you're looking at like the weight almost of an SE6.
Yep.
But the performance is just in a completely different world with the extra length and leverage.
That's nice. Awesome balance. What would you say that starts at roughly about 2 inches and maybe flares out to just under 2.5, around 2.5. So it's got a pretty nice belly, nice sweet spot, and yeah, that is absolutely going to swing. 3/16 stock. Yep. So, you know, some guys, and especially these days, you see in, you know, some of the knife groups, they're like thicker and thicker knives and heavier choppers, but I would go as far as to say this is in an efficient size class. It's an efficient weight.
Absolutely.
So the 3V perform, man. That was great.
Yeah, it's absolutely good stuff.
So we have a couple of different sheaths here now. Just to clarify, at this time, I know Bobby is working on some sheath options, but they haven't quite come just yet. So you're kind of on your own. If you like these Diamondback country knives, you're kind of on your own to find a sheath option. Now I made do by stealing this. This is the Badger Claw Outfitters leather sheath. I stole it off another knife, and it's literally the perfect option for this. It fits the moccasin wonderfully, nice and efficient, simple, deep pouch leather sheath. Pretty basic, but you have a pretty killer Kydex going here. So what do you have?
So this is Black Bear custom Kydex. There's so many bears that I deal with that sometimes I have to take a moment to pause and make sure I'm getting the right one. Black Bear custom Kydex, absolutely beautiful, fantastic. Retention's ideal, and it's not too big. So this thing rides on the belt like a much smaller, lighter knife. It's there when I need it. It's out of the way when I don't. Retention's good enough, so I'm never going to lose it.
Yep.
I know when it's in and when it's out, so I've got that nice click. And then when I go leather for custom, I usually go Spirit of the Bear Designs if I want something fully custom.
Oh, more bears.
Oh yeah, more bears. I'm telling you, everybody I work with is a bear of this or that or the other. It's wild. So
nice. This is sweet. This is a nice rig. So if somebody would want one of these sheaths, you send in your knife.
Yeah.
And it's molded directly to your actual knife.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, so a sheath like yours is really nice. It's really convenient. It's nice to buy it off the shelf, and it's easy. But sometimes when you've got a bigger knife or one that you can't find an off-the-shelf leather sheath for, or sometimes when you just want a little bit more, getting one completely custom tailored to your knife, especially if it's a handmade custom, it really is. It's an extra investment, but I think it's worth it.
Nice. Well, Jacob, we succeeded, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that. To Bobby Garza, thank you, man. Awesome work, beautiful work, and just a fantastic direction.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, thanks, buddy.
Absolutely, bud. Thanks for coming.